Brandon Miller entered the NBA with a profile that was very sought after as a tall wing with perimeter scoring upside, secondary playmaking, and perimeter defense. And so far through his rookie season, he's lived up to that billing. Through 63 games, he's averaging 16.6 points per game, 4.2 rebounds per game, and 2.4 assists per game on 43.4, 36.8, 80.4 splits, and a 54.1 true shooting percentage, which is very promising for a rookie wing. Miller may not be the most unique rookie ever, especially compared to some of his rookie peers. However, that doesn't take away from the fact this is a player with a clear path to stardom as potentially the next great NBA wing. But quickly before we go any further, if you're new and like basketball, I'd really appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I release a video. I make videos for basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the two best ways can help me on the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and I'll be reaching my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. Anyways, let's talk about Brandon Miller. When Miller entered the NBA, he was coveted for his three-point shooting ability as a tall wing. In one of the best three-point shooting classes in recent memory, he was arguably the best of the bunch, and it's safe to say that's a skill that has translated to the NBA. He's shooting 36.8% from 3 on 6.3 attempts per game. He does most of his work off the ball as 93.2% of his three-point production is assisted on. However, that also is a major selling point with him as a player. His ability to thrive as an off-ball shooter from beyond the arc is what gave him such a high floor entering the NBA. He moves very well off the ball, he has very good shot prep, he has deep shooting range, and while the form is a bit funky, his release point is lower for someone that tall. It clearly hasn't been a hindrance based off the results. He isn't a great pull-up three-point shooter. He's shooting just 29.7% on 1.2 pull-up three-point attempts per game. However, at the same time, there are indicators that I will talk about soon that suggest he can grow into being a good pull-up three-point shooter. And regardless, his ability to thrive off the ball as a three-point shooter is very valuable given his position, given his height. That's something that will always be coveted in the NBA, and something that makes him work really well as someone that can play off of one of the best playmakers in the NBA when healthy in LaMelo Ball. While Miller thrives off the ball as a three-point shooter, he also has shown ability to create on the ball as well, and that's showcased most in his mid-range scoring ability, where only 43.1% of his production is assisted on. According to Clean the Glass, Miller is shooting 38.7% on 3.5 short mid-range attempts per game, which are shots between 4 feet and just within 14 feet, and he's shooting 48.1% on 2 long mid-range attempts per game, which are shots between 14 feet and just within the 3-point line. On top of that, he's also shooting 46.7% on 3.5 pull-up 2-point attempts per game. Miller is very comfortable in terms of getting to his spots in the mid-range area. His pull-up mechanics are very fluid, he's more than capable of hitting a contested shot as well, as he's shooting 42.9% on 2.1 shots per game, beyond 10 feet where the defender is between 4 feet of him, which the NBA classifies as tight to very tight defensive coverage. This to me shows that Miller is more than just an off-ball scorer. He can also create on the ball. He is a bit limited on the ball by something that I will talk about later. However, it's very clear that Miller is one of the best mid-range shooters in the NBA right now. It's something that he's proving he can do on the ball and be efficient at. And also something that shows he does have room to grow in terms of pull-up three-point shooting, like I mentioned earlier. Because it's very clear that his lackluster pull-up numbers from beyond the arc aren't because of bad technique. It's more the fact that it's just something he really isn't comfortable with right now, but he does have technique to potentially become good at it due to the fact that he's already one of the better pull-up mid-range shooters in the NBA. Based off his off-ball three-point shooting and on-ball mid-range scoring, Miller has one of the best scoring profiles for a perimeter wing we have seen in recent memory among rookies. And if he can expand his pull-up shooting to beyond the mid-range, he could be one of the best perimeter scorers in the NBA. Outside of his perimeter scoring profile, the other area I'm very encouraged by with Miller is his connecting playmaking. I do think he's a bit limited as a playmaker in terms of upside. His handle is fine, but it's not the level you want a primary to be at. However, he has really good vision, his feel for the game is very good, he's unselfish, he plays within the flow of the offense, he can make reads in the half court and in transition. One thing that stood out to me when I watched him in Summer League in person was the fact he was really the only player on that Hornets roster that kept his head up and was looking for others in transition. Miller may not be the next great point forward that handles primary reps. However, he is someone that I believe will be a plus playmaker long term. One that knows how to keep offensive flow, one that doesn't stall the offense, and that to me is very valuable because it makes him a player that can be effective in any offensive lineup. Now, I have one concern with Miller on offense. For as great of a perimeter profile as he has, as promising as he is in terms of connecting playmaking, his rim scoring is a real question mark for me, which was also the case entering the NBA. He had real finishing concerns in terms of handling contact as well as getting to the basket during his time at Alabama, and that's something that is also been a struggle for him in the NBA as well. He's shooting 55.3% on 3 attempts per game at the rim, which puts him in the 16th percentile in terms of rim efficiency. He's not the strongest athlete ever, and he also doesn't have great burst or quickness to blow by defenders either. Usually if a player lacks strength early on, they can use quickness to make up for it as they develop physically, like a Jalen Green or the Thompson twins. But that really isn't the case with Miller. Miller is a very good athlete, he's vertically explosive, and he's somebody that moves very well, has very fluid movement skills, but he's not the most quick, even if I wouldn't describe him as not quick. I wouldn't describe him as quick enough to make up for lack of strength, and the strength is a concern as well. And it does hold me back a bit on his ceiling. Being a rim pressure threat is a big factor in terms of the best players in the league, especially on the wing. When you look at guys like Jason Tatum, you see a real ability at the rim, or even a case like Paolo Banchero, where the numbers aren't good at the rim, at least as you would hope they would be, but you see the physical tools and his ability to get to the line. Miller doesn't really have that ability to draw fouls consistently right now. He's not good at handling contact, and it's really hard for him to get by defenders, which is why you see a lot of his bad misses at the rim be because of the fact that he's heavily contested. I think for Miller, his best chance is to get stronger, and I do think it's realistic. His frame looks like it could add on a few more pounds of functional strength. Not bulking by any means, I'm not saying he needs to be built like LeBron. I think if he got to LeBron's weight, it would be a hindrance to his movement skills, but I do think he could get up to around 210, 215, and that would be enough functional strength to really improve in terms of his ability at the basket. I think this ability will determine just how high the heights he reaches are. And I don't think it's out of the cards he gets better. I actually think he will get better in this area. But I don't really see anything to suggest he can get to the level of rim pressure threat in order to reach some of the lofty expectations some have for him. Brandon Miller is a player that I think is going to be a starter in the NBA. At the very least, he's going to be a real contributor as a starter. His skill set is just too good to have a floor lower than that. At the very least, he's a good shooter that can pull up in the mid-range and play within the floor of the offense as a connector. However, he has a ton of room to grow and improve. Even though he was older for a one-done freshman, he's still only 21 years old, and that's not nearly old enough to suggest he's done getting better. A lot of the best players in the NBA wouldn't even be close to as great as they are now if they stopped improving at 23 or 24, let alone 21. On top of that, he has shown he can make significant improvements in a short amount of time. The player he was at Alabama was significantly better than the player he was as a senior in high school. He made a significant leap during his time in college, which is why I don't think I can rule out the idea of outlier development with him. I think his pull-up three-point shooting and rim pressure are going to be what determine his ceiling. I think it's realistic to believe he can get better as a pull-up three-point shooter just based off the fact that he's a really good mid-range pull-up shooter. And I do think he will get better as a rim scorer with more strength. I'm not overly confident in him becoming a good enough rim pressure threat to reach #1 option on contender levels on the wing like a Kevin Durant or a Jason Tatum, but I do think he will get better. I think the best possible version of Brandon Miller is a legit #2 star and a contender, someone that thrives playing off of another main option, while also being good enough on the ball to take pressure off that main star. I'm not comparing him as a player skill set wise to these players because they are very different in terms of profile compared to Miller, but I see Miller becoming a star in the way Tyrese Maxey, Jaylen Brown, or even Jamal Murray are. You may not view them as a guy you would want as your #1 contender, but they clearly have a star impact and can thrive off a main option. Regardless of outcome, I do think one thing is very clear. Barring injury, Brandon Miller is going to be a really good player for a very long time. But that's the end of this video. If you made it to this point, thank you so much. Again, haven't already, like, subscribe, hit notification bell, notified whenever I release a video. I make videos about basketball all the time, and liking and subscribing are the two best ways that help me out in the YouTube algorithm, help support the channel, and help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers by the end of the season. Let's try and get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. Let me know what you think about Brandon Miller. How high do you think his ceiling is? Do you agree with what I've had to say? Do you disagree? Leave all that in the comment section below. But with that being said, have a nice day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.